Welcome to the Candid Conversation Show. I'm your host, Marilyn Fontaine, artist and creative coach for women who want success and income with ease. So this is Marilyn, and I'm an artist coach if this is your first time listening to this podcast. And we've been going since, 2004, 2006. We had a pause and we're back again. Anyway, so today's episode is how to ease into the soft life after 40. And I really did not like that term, the soft life. I prefer to say an easeful life, but I'm going to say soft life because I feel like we deserve to have that as black women, women of colour, as part of our vocabulary. And I know this applies to all women, but as a black woman, my experience in this world has been pretty intense. And so I speak to women, but I speak to women like myself, because we're the ones that carry the term strong black woman or angry black woman. And in reality, we're just exhausted. We're exhausted carrying so much. And so I have some key points that I want to cover today that will perhaps give you something to contemplate. I'm really into the space of contemplation before action. And when we're able to contemplate and create space for our thoughts, action is much more easy to execute. And I'm mindful that this podcast is about softness and ease. And when I say action, I mean the action of showing up, the action of rituals, the action of doing something regular, the action of being consistent. So these are the things I'm going to talk about today. Okay, let's go. So the first point I want to talk about is our physical body. So when we arrive after 40, so arrive to the age of after 40, I'm getting tongue-tied here. When we get to the age of 40, even 35, but I'm going to speak on 40, mostly 42, because that is when we hit that 7-year cycle, and a lot of changes happen around 42 for a woman. And so when we get to that space, we already might be in perimenopause. So we are in perimenopause, or we might be walking into perimenopause. So our hormones are changing. And so using up, I'm not going to be the menopause expert. You can go to Karen Arthur, Menopause or Black podcast, and she'll talk all about this. But it's not the time to be using all our stress hormones, because we are going to be needing those to support our body through these changes. And so what happens is that we still try to run at the same steam, but we don't want to admit that we're actually going into menopause or that we're in perimenopause, because there's a whole social conditioning around being an elder or being a woman in menopause. And so what we tend to do, we tend to prove a point and keep going and going and going, when our body really just wants to rest. And when we rest, we feel guilty. And so the key thing is to really read up and look up your perimenopause information and really be kind. So supporting your body with the adaptogens, ashwagandha, cacao, lion's mane. I'm not sure if I think it is. Lion's mane might be an adaptogen. And there's so many others that I'm going to list on. I think I've got it on my website, so I'll link the blog post to this. But the adaptogens are really important because they will help your body take on the changes. So just look up adaptogen. A lot of them are mushroom-based. The second thing I want to talk about is this concept of resilience, and that we have to keep going and going and going. What I will say to you is, if you disagree with me and think, no, it's our birthright to be resilient, yes, we are resilient. We're naturally resilient because we're the mother of creation, so we're naturally resilient. We have that Eve DNA gene, and we've gone through so many major events on this planet. We're naturally resilient. However, you still need to be homing in and looking at what happens to women, especially now. Our mothers had the arthritis and the diabetes, but the different things that are happening to us at such a young age, strokes, heart attacks, all the things that we're doing, it's because as much as we're physically strong, we're emotionally bankrupt, because we are not only having to carry our familial traumas of our families, our ancestral trauma, we're also carrying our community trauma, because therapy is still not common in the Black community or the Asian community as it is in the white community. It's getting better, but there's still, the statistics are still less. However, a lot of men of colour are getting admitted to psychiatric hospitals more and more each day. So who's carrying all that stuff? So it's our resilience, knowing that, yes, I can be resilient, but whose stuff am I carrying? Because that will really impact you going into your menopause and perimenopause. And I see it on some of the women, because they look so stressed, and I can just see somebody and know that the stress that they are carrying does not belong to them. It's not their stress. It is intergenerational, it's familial, and this is where we have all these conditions which are baffling, or we're just going to term them as an autoimmune disease because we don't know what is causing them. And a really, really good resource is When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate, because, oh my God, as you get into the book, you start to see where all the stuff is coming from and how it's accumulating in the body. So, yes, it's nice to go out and rave with your friends, and it's good to go out and be with family, but you really need to be doing a self-inquiry of whose stuff are you carrying. And this goes into trauma and exhaustion, because when you are carrying trauma of other people's trauma, or you could be carrying trauma from a young age, what's happening to all that? Because it will come and visit you when the menopause comes. Believe me, when our defences are down and our body is trying to cope with the hormonal changes, and we don't have as much estrogen that we would like, we're not sleeping properly, everything comes to visit. It's almost like Judgment Day, like everything comes into the body, and we want to be able to be compassionate with ourselves when these things start to come up, because when we don't give ourselves the time and the grace of getting ourselves ready to be in a contemplative mode, we are discarding ourselves, and it will show us, it will mirror back to us in the world. Exhaustion, that will come with the holding on to trauma and trying to do too much when our bodies are just not having it. Another thing that we get is success guilt. So when we are doing well, we may stop ourselves, we may sabotage ourselves, because we've been doing it for a long time. We're now in our 40s. We're making some good money. We've got some great friends. And so we start to feel guilty. And again, this ties in with the trauma, the familial trauma, because other members of our families may not have had an easy ride. I wouldn't even say easy ride, may not have had the realizations that we've had. And so they are struggling when we are able to move past certain situations that plagued us as a younger woman or teenager. And so we just keep feeling guilty, and that impacts us because it stops us from moving forward, and we're so busy running after other people or trying to uphold members of our families or friendship group because we feel guilty with our success. And I always say to people, when you want to know how you're going to be successful, look around the people that's around you, and also do an experiment. Don't be around your group friends for a month and see how well or badly you do. It will determine, like being around certain people, you would know how well you're doing or how badly you're doing, and it will show you the level of support that you have around you. And if you are upholding your community, it's not balanced. And which goes into support, and so being around amongst the right type of people that you can share with and that has the same mindset as that you have, and also being really in a supportive space where you can discuss these things and you can share and nobody's going to judge you. And this is why the monthly creative vision workshops that we have, people just come, they create, they work on a project, they just share. There's just total acceptance and unconditional positive regard. And, it's just what these women need. And so this is what is really important. In fact, you need a container or a space that isn't just your friendship group, but that will support you with doing something creative or something that ticks the boxes of your bucket list or something that you want to achieve in your life. It's really important because it's the practice of just being present and not holding any label or any requirements or any role that you normally would have to play. It's about just being clear about where you are and being supportive to yourself in the moment without having to put a life jacket on other people rather than yourself. So being around the right support that is nourishing and is two-way support is what is really needed to bring in a soft life. Anything else that is not, you are rescuing and you are helping other people, and it's not balanced. And so this is where, when we have the support, there's two more things I want to say is consistency and commitment. Consistency, you have to show up, even if it's your practice, and even if you can't do the full thing. Supposing you're getting up every morning and you're doing yoga, and you can't do yoga, but you're still doing your gratitude exercises or you're stretching, that is still consistency, because you're showing up. Because when we start passing our 40s, I'm getting spiritual here, we start to be more aligned. If we are softening up, we become more aligned with nature and our nature. And so we it's our intention. And so when we meet the universe, we meet her halfway, we get stuff back. And that's what commitment and consistency is. And if you're not getting people in your life that are not committed to you, check your commitment and your consistency. Because if you are not being consistent because of any of the other things I mentioned above, then it will mirror back to you, and you do not want to be bringing that into your 50s at all. You just want to, the way for your 50s should be all the work of clearing, letting go, refining in your 40s. So when you get into your 50s, your ease, your soft life is unapologetic. It isn't, you're playing at being soft, but you're holding other people up. It's actually, you're rebirthing yourself. You're rebirthing yourself. And so this is when you do that, you start attracting the right community to you, because you are feeling in alignment with yourself. And so this is where you will start to get the right people that is for you. And so I just feel like it's so important to be mindful of what is happening with you and what you need in your life that will support you through this soft life. Let me know how you felt this podcast was. I just really wanted to put the information and, take time with what I'm saying and how it feels. And I'm really in a space of gratitude, but also contemplation, which I said before, and awareness of seeing how we have so much access to certain things as women, and it's inside. And since my ayahuasca retreat, I'm really aware of how much tragedy and trauma we hold from childhood, or we hold from our parents, and we're bringing it into our 50s, and it's so sad because we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. We are holding a baton for our ancestors. They went through so much so we could live and be privileged with what we have here. And we owe it to ourselves and them because they live within us. Your ancestors are part of your DNA. And when we can tell their stories through our resilience, but in a soft way, we can change the generations to come. And, I always say this, but I really believe it, that when we can just allow ourselves to have the ease, and it's the psychological ease, it's not just about resting on a bed or, eating just eating healthy foods. The trauma that we don't need to hold on to. And I don't care how you do it, through coaching, through trauma coaching, through therapy, through plant medicine. Take that time and that commitment for yourself and say it and give yourself a vow that you are going to make 2023 the year where you get rid of that story that you got to hold on to. And you are going to live a soft life without apology. And you're going to commit to yourself. This is it. I'll be back next week. Let me know how you found this podcast. Please feedback to me. People are listening, not getting feedback. Let me know. Just to tell you that we have the Creative Vision Workshop, which is the next one, is on the 2nd of April. And we are looking at the quote of Octavia Butler as a prompt. And I think that it's going to be quite a good one. Normally I do painting. This time I think I'm going to do some poetry. But it's a space for creative, professional women who like to be creative. And it's an hour, 2 hours you can spend, and you're just sitting there and we're just going to share. It's a really lovely way to build community and share with like-minded people. That's it for now. I hope you have an amazing week. And don't forget to subscribe, and also subscribe to my newsletter, The Space Between, because I'm going to have some amazing offers coming up, and you want to be on that list to know exactly what's going to be happening, because I just offer some more gems on a deeper level and with some more insights. So definitely join us. Love to see you. All right, Marilyn signing off. Hi, this is Marilyn Fontaine, and this is the podcast of MJ Fontaine. Web address www.mjfontaine.co.uk. And this is episode 6 of our weekly podcast. And I'd just like to say last week we had really brilliant feedback from listeners who really enjoyed the podcast. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, you can. It's just in the list below on SoundCloud. I will also post a link to the website and the newsletter as well. Okay, so for those of you who hadn't listened to last week's podcast, I covered the grief process and creativity and being transparent. And continuing in that vein, today I'm going to cover love and relationships, which is really interesting because I very rarely speak about my love and relationship unless it's in a poem in a blog somewhere. I just feel like I have to keep that part of my life quite private. In another aspect, I think that it's really important to identify where we are after we come out of relationships, and and in between relationships, what we actually want to manifest in our lives. For me right now, I'm not in a relationship, and I really want to be in a space where I'm understanding me even more, the person that I've become, to really enjoy and to really explore the depths of who I am in a really clear and authentic, honest way. Because in the past, I've taken time out in between relationships to heal myself. But it's always been from a place of, I'm really wounded. I really need to, bring myself back together, which is what we tend to do anyway. And whilst I'm in that mode of bringing myself back together, I go into a relationship. And then the whole cycle of pattern happens again, where because I'm not synthesizing or consolidating all those parts of myself which have been fragmented, I tend to disperse my essence again. And therein lies the problem. So the same dynamic for me keeps coming up. We can say we choose a type of partner, we go for a similar type of partner, but I actually feel that when you do not, and it's not about I'm being whole so I can choose a partner, but I actually believe if you're not really taking the time to be conscious with yourself, when you meet somebody, you are going into a situation unconsciously, or semi-conscious, I would say, because you've not really spent that time being conscious with yourself. So so that can look like, being in loads of different places, trying to find yourself, instead of just being still and being, looking at situations when they come up. Because the reality is the world is reflecting to you what your core beliefs and expectations are. So whenever you find yourself in a challenging situation, it's a huge part. I wouldn't say every single thing you created is because of your faults, although we live in a mental universe. I think you co-create situations, or there's a thing called divine timing, where you think a thought and a situation that is looking to lands into your space. If you're going to go into much more deeper schools of thought like quantum physics and stuff like that. But and the reason why I've gone down that confusing route is because I think that we can get so hung up on, well, you've caused this, you've caused that, you've caused this. And it doesn't help when you're really experience really awful situations. Try telling that to the person that gets severely abused or attacked or beaten up. It's not going to help. So it's looking at what patterns am I reinforcing within myself subconsciously that I can move forward from. And I actually think when you take time to consciously be with yourself, that's when you can consciously go into a relationship and stand more in your power and be able to walk away if that situation does not suit you, or be able to, enjoy the ride or go through the challenges that a relationship will bring. I spoke to a couple of acquaintances who are in really healing, very conscious relationships, and I spoke about the space there was in between their relationship, and they actually said to me that they was consciously celibate, so they're consciously not engaging in any relationship with anybody on any level, because they were really taking time with their self. And both of them had a situation where they attracted somebody who they thought was their soulmate, and wasn't really, but they still was able to learn and to stand in their power and move through that situation and realize that, this person wants different things to what I want, and still be gracious about it. And shortly after that, that's when they met their twin soul or soulmate, whatever definition we want to put on that. And so for me, it feels very healthy, because they're both in a place where they're no longer blaming a partner, or no longer feeling a lot of resentment. And I think that the resentment and the blame and anger, they all have their place, but eventually you have to move forward. So for me, I always believe that love is really, really important for us to function as humans. To be in love, for the inspiration, being an artist, being in love, or being in the love energy, regardless of whether there's a person involved or not, is really important to me. And I find when I haven't, or I'm not engaging in that place, I'm going away from love. In fact, my life becomes very stagnant. The miracles that I attract, they're still there, but they feel quite dry and arid. I don't look as juicy and, vibrant. My thoughts can get twisted, and therefore that's when I have to pull it in and say, actually, this is not being loving to myself. So Marilyn, this is not being loving, and there's times when you just feel what you feel, because you've been through the mill, you've been through so much, you feel that there's been an injustice in your life, or you feel annoyed, you feel hurt, betrayed, you feel angry, you feel heartbroken, you feel misunderstood, or somebody's accused you of breaking their heart, and you feel that it's unfair. All these feelings come within, the ending of a relationship. And again, it's a concerted effort, and that's where a spiritual practice is really important, because the only place you can go is in inside. And what brings us to that place so successfully is a great amount of pain, or boredom, or feeling really, really stagnant. And normally that place of stagnation, that place of feeling bored, angry, upset, is actually the place before a major change happens. But again, it's loving yourself through it. So, and it's really interesting, because when I do look at people that are consciously taking time out, they're dating themselves, they're going on a retreat, they're looking after themselves, they're getting support from a coach or a therapist or a massage therapist, they're really looking after all aspects of their body. That's when they become more attracted to everybody and everything, because they're taking time out. It's that beautiful place. And I see that with my clients, when they're really in a place where they're loving themselves, they almost become jealous of their space. And this is something that happens where you start to get, within the midst of everything, you start to get these feelings of just happiness that just come spontaneously. They're not related to having a lot of money, although that helps. They're not related to having someone give us the gaze, which I'm going to cover in a minute. They're actually related to just being able to be in that moment, be totally accountable for self, and just feeling I'm okay in this space. And I always kind of liken that moment of just total joy, just for that, just for a second. If you can remember that film, Sleeping with the Enemy, and Julia Roberts is in an abusive relationship and she flees from this man. And then she got this beautiful little house with a new identity. And she's in her home and she's just, at first she's a bit nervous because she thinks she's still living with this guy. And then there's a part where is just sitting in her home and she's just happy. She hasn't got much, but she's happy. And that kind of really, that moment, I get I hear clients say, I was just in my home, I made some nice food. I just looked out the window and I felt really good. Or I was meditating, I sat with some crystals, I put on some lovely music, lit some incense. And Marilyn, I felt really just in a beautiful space. And when I see people like that and they're not in a relationship, I always know there's a matter of time before they attract someone into their life, because they're in that really beautiful space in between. And it's really interesting because, again, it's that place where you are in this space. So the next lot of tools we all need, is to be able to say, this person is coming towards me. There are some warning signs, or there's some things I don't like. I'm actually going to step back. And no matter how much I like it, it's still not quite what I want. So I'm actually not going to make a decision. And that's the most crucial moment, because that's like the test that comes. And another example I have is when I had a job and it just did not feel right. If it was being offered to me, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, we want you to be a permanent member of staff. And I'm like, no, I'm freelance, I'm a trainer, I'm not doing it. And I sat back. Within 2 months, that company had got rid of a few staff members. So I would have just taken that for full security, and it would have ended up back square one saying, I told you so, so it really reinforced my feeling, and I've been in situations where people have been interested in me and it's just not felt right. And so somebody will say, well, you're being too fussy, or you're being too choosy. I think when we are looking after self, our radar is in a neutral, balanced position. It's the voices we hear from other people, or the lack of confidence that tells us you must choose now, where we need to just continuously sit and just wait for the situation to reveal itself more. Because you will know, because you're coming from a place of center. You're not coming from a place where you're running away from one relationship, or you're running away from being lonely. When you're in that moment of clarity, or in that moment of semi-peace, or you're anchored, you're grounded, you're in the moment, you're feeling really good, you're looking good. And the tests and, the carrots that's dangling and all those things are coming towards you. You just have to keep breathing through it like you're giving birth, because that's at the moment when your universe is showing you and is testing you. It's testing, do you have the resolve? Are you making the right choices? And me, being at this age that I am, realising the choices, when I'm looking back, I'm playing a screen. And I'm not even talking about the relationship, the last relationship I had, but relationship back 10, 15 years, where I knew there was something about that person. I shouldn't have done it, but I was just like, well, you know what? Let me just do it because. Or maybe I better No, your choice has really got to be key. Now, if you're a person and you've not had much experiences and you just want to get out there, you want a day, then that's fine. But I think if you're really a person on purpose and you cannot afford to be around anybody that's going to that not people are not going to do anything to us, but you're not going to loosen your boundaries, and you're going, you do not have the strength to take on such a complex situation, then don't do it. Because you will know the people that you have to move mountains to work with, and you'll know the people to leave alone when you go through so many situations, because you have a ready-made built-in history, signaling, engine, machine, sensor, beam in your body called experience. And whether you attract a certain type, that is all work that you have to do within. You cannot just go to different places and go and select these people. So instead of going to a club, you're going to the library. Instead of going to the library, you're going to a lecture. It does not matter. It will still be the same person when you scratch the surface, or they would turn into that person. So it's really important that the work, healing is done within the spirit. You're doing it within your body. Some really good suggestions: Queen through a sacred woman, going through the gateways, working with a coach, joining a moon circle. The moon circle is really good because it gives you your time, taking time out in nature. That's really cliche, but it does, it's part of it. Going out, taking yourself out, going to museums, going to art shows, and going by yourself sometimes, to really, so you can really absorb the work in exhibitions, taking a day out to the British Library just to learn about different books. Because what these things do, they spark an interest from you, which is different. Cooking is a really beautiful self-nourishing pursuit, which I spoke about before. So all these kinds of things are really good to help. So for me, the most important thing is that going into another relationship, that I meet that person with really clear boundaries, but with an open heart. And I cannot 100% blame anybody that's come into my life, because we played a part together. It was a role. And I do believe that people come into your life for a reason, and you learn so much stuff. So we can be hating and we can be cursing, but the beautiful spirits that has graced my path, some of them not so beautiful, but a great deal of them have been. I've not felt it at the time, but they've informed my creativity in a way that I would never have had if I wasn't in a loving relationship with them. Even, the people that weren't really serious and they were just friends, or, came into my life that way, they've informed me. I love polarity. I love being amongst male company as I do female. So for me, it feeds me, which I'll go on to the gays, because we've got about 19 minutes left. Not 90 minutes, got about 10 minutes left. And I really think it's important, not for validation, but for part of the feeding of the feminine energy. The dance it's part of the tantric dance that people have when they embark on a spiritual relationship. It's about the gaze. It's being able to really be present, really see your partner and look upon your partner with loving eyes. And it's not giving your partner promises, but it's that whole thing about Nancy Friday writes about it, about the male gaze, how your person of the opposite sex just gazes upon you. So it's not in a lascivious way or an invasive way, but the person that you're intimate with gives you that gaze, which makes you feel really important, or enhances your self-importance already. There's a really good book, How to Have an Adult Relationship, by David Rico, and he talks about the 5 A's, and attention is one of them. And I think that's really important, that you have that attention, you have that gaze from your partner. Things can change as you get older, but one thing that's really evident in a lot of really lovely, loving long-term relationships is that gaze. It's really being able to see your partner and appreciating them for who they are, regardless of how they're making you feel and what you're going through with them. And, you know, relationships can have fluctuations, and you can go through a stage where you dislike that person. You don't want to look at them. But I still feel at the beginning, it's nature's way of helping us bond with some discernment, is to be able to experience that. You know, to be in a relationship and not to be seen can be really heartbreaking for some people. And I really think it's important that we as women, and men, if you're listening to this, that we understand how important the art of attention, appreciation, acceptance is really, really important in bonding and moving forward in such a challenging world. So, next week I'll talk about boundaries, because we have run out of time. I was going to cover boundaries, but I actually don't want to be spending so much time on these topics, because the podcast can go on and on and on and on. I think as time progresses, then I can make the podcast a lot longer, but at the moment it feels really good. So let me know what you think about this, about relationship, times that you need to take, being in a relationship, because this is more about how we go into a relationship, how we maintain healthy boundaries. And, you know, the power dynamics in relationships always shift, because we're learning and growing, we're recovering, we're healing, you know, we're doing all these kinds of things. But I'm getting, when I speak to women, and of my own experience, is I want to go in as myself and stand fully in my power as myself, without worrying that I'm going to intimidate somebody or make them feel smaller, you know. So I want to go in, I want to surrender to my partner, but I want to surrender exactly as I am. I don't want to change anything about myself, but I'm ready to compromise and to work with them so we can reach a common goal. But I don't want to hand over my power and say, here you go, to be something totally different. It is about accepting yourself exactly as you are, and then attracting that person that will accept you and will not demand you to change, or will not try to control you. Because when you meet somebody who's trying to control you, they have a very, I would say, a lack of personal power, and that's why they're trying to control you. So it's being able to identify how much self-worth and self-esteem does this person have around me, because then you'll know the level, how much they'll try to control you. We only try to control when we are really afraid or not sure about our power. So, let me know what you think about this podcast. This is Marilyn Fontaine signing off. If you want to join my newsletter, you can go onto my site, mjfontaine.co.uk. The address is at the end of this podcast, or you can check out my Instagram or my Facebook. If you have any questions, please contact me, send me a private message, or email at mjfontaine.co.uk, info@mjfontaine.co.uk. If there's any topics you want me to cover, or you want to know more information about this particular topic, or you'd like some support to kind of find yourself, just drop me a line and see what we can do. Okay, 25 minutes past. Until next week, bye-bye.